Opinions expressed are those of the program host and guest and not WSTU. WSTU does not endorse any products mentioned. Any reproduction or retransmission of this broadcast is strictly prohibited without written consent of WSTU.
The Treasure Coast longest-running local talk radio show is on the air. The Treasure Coast Forum, brought to you by Get interested, get educated, get involved, and give us a call with your opinions at 220-9788. And here's your host of the Treasure Coast Forum.
Welcome back to WSTU, the Treasure Coast Forum. I'm Cassidy Fowler, and I'm joined here today with
Grace Alford
and Frankie DeCesare.
All right. Welcome back. So It's once more South Fork's in the house. You guys are presenting.
We gotta get some county kids in here.
I know. What's going on?
Maybe some Jensen kids too. We've got to represent the entire county.
Right. I think so. Well said. Well done. Okay. So you want to talk about what's going on in the news?
Yep. So we want to start off today by talking about the ethics of solitary confinement. So recently, on Wednesday, a man named Thomas Silverstein was finally died after spending 35 years in solitary confinement. And just personally, I feel like that is almost unjust to set.
Is that cruel and unusual?
It seems cruel and unusual to.
Well, why was he in jail?
He was in jail because, well, Frankie, do you want to explain?
Yeah, I guess so I don't remember what year, but back when he was first arrested, he robbed a bank. And then while in that prison, he killed an inmate. So he got transferred to a maximum security prison. And while in that prison, he killed 2 more inmates and stabbed a guard and wounded him.
Fatally stabbed the guard.
Fatally stabbed the guard. And then after that, he was sent to solitary confinement.
All right. So not really a good actor.
No. Not so much. But I still feel as though he shouldn't have spent 35 years in solitary confinement with no outside contact. Usually if you are inside of solitary confinement, you're allowed at least phone calls or something to keep your psyche healthy. But all right. So what would you do with the inmate that is obviously doesn't play well with others?
It becomes a difficult debate because at a certain point you say, well, this person can't be around any other people. They can't be around any other inmates. But at the same time, how can we treat someone like a human while still prohibiting them from interacting and while protecting the safety of others? So it becomes a difficult argument about what to do there.
Yeah, I mean, that is the conundrum. But so what is the solution, though? That's the question.
To be honest, I don't really think we should be allowing this guy who got sentenced. We shouldn't allow him to play the victim in the first place because it's a matter of safety and security, which is, I mean, really important in regards to like the prison system because, you know, it's already really messed up.
It's a little bit messed up.
So, I think the fact that some news media are like spinning this and saying like, oh my God, they're monsters. Like how dare they? Meanwhile, he murdered 3 people and wounded a guard. So I think in regards to should he have been in solitary confinement for that long, I think that's perfectly fine. But maybe the leniency in contact could have been more. But no, I think if he's a threat to the other people, then why should we allow him to interact with those people?
Right. And obviously this particular state, I don't know what state this was, but obviously they don't have the death penalty. Because generally, when you kill in some states, when you kill a law enforcement officer, that's automatic. You know, for death penalty states, that would be an automatic. You know, death penalty. Execution for that prisoner.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess the only humane thing they could do is just lock him up and keep him out of contact with other people, because obviously he's a danger more to the population in the prison than anything else. So
he even wrote a letter to his friend in 2008 saying it's almost more humane to kill somebody immediately than it is to intentionally bury a man alive, which I think that burying a man alive means solitary confinement.
Correct.
Yeah.
So was it released like the extent of his death? Was it like were psychological factors brought in, or was it just like how old was he when he died? Does it say? Like was it an
he was
old age thing?
67.
All right.
Okay.
So it could have just been natural causes.
Yeah. So I think that has to be taken into account too, whether or not there's like direct correlation between him being stuck by himself in this situation for so long, or in regard like just natural causes.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how far into his sentence he was before he killed people?
35 years.
No.
And
No, how long had he been in jail or in prison before?
I do not know. It does not exactly say how many years.
Well, at the same time, he was kind of given a chance in a non-high security prison, and the fact that he killed someone, he killed an inmate, then he blew that chance, and then he went to a high security prison. He killed 2 more people and stabbed a guard. So at that point, you really just had to put him in solitary confinement if the death penalty is a non-viable option for that state.
I don't really have exactly when it happened, but he was sent to prison in 1978, and between 1978 and 1983, he killed those 3 people and injured that guard.
All right. So at least he's, and it cost us more to keep people in prison.
People in solitary confinement, especially.
Right. But, that was the decision of that state constitution, state government. And so, and I have a hard time questioning the thinking of the people who are in charge of those facilities. I mean, they deal with that on a day in, day out basis, and they got their sleeves rolled up. They have to deal with it. And so I'm sure they just picked the best option that they had available to them. So, all right. So what else are we chatting about? That was a very interesting conversation, very interesting topic. I didn't realize that case had bubbled up. So, and again, he just passed away today, right?
On Wednesday.
On Wednesday? So, do you know anything about the Walker Lind character, the guy who the Taliban guy who was in prison for, I think, 17 years. He served 17 of the 20 years, and he was released today.
Was he pardoned?
No. No. He was released, but not unusual for people to not necessarily serve out their full sentence. So apparently he got 3 years off. And so stand by. We got a caller calling in. WSTU. Yeah, okay, John, stand by. All right, so we got John on the line. He must have some thoughts about what's going on in the news today. What would you like to talk to us about today, John? Wait, stand by. Yeah, you're on now. Go ahead.
Okay, I can hardly hear you.
Okay, well, we can hear you fine.
Okay. What do you think about the president can't accomplish anything for the people? He's just worried about his problem with the Democratic Party.
Well, and where did you get that information at?
It's all over the news.
And what news channel was that?
Oh, I listen to Fox. I listen to them all.
Okay. All right. Very good. Well,
but I mean, I'm just stating the fact.
Well,
because Nancy said bad things about him, he wouldn't negotiate to help the people.
Right.
You know, I seen a show on TV 2 years ago.
Wait a minute. Let me back you up. Stand by. So, so did you know? Because again, we're talking facts here. Did you know that Nancy Pelosi asked her driver when they pulled in front of the White House to leave the motor running when she came to the meeting today? So
no,
this
I didn't know that.
Yeah. So this is
wow. That's really important information.
It is very important because what it says is that she had deliberately sabotaged the meeting, and she didn't really want to have a meeting.
She had no idea that he was going to walk out of the.
She had a very good idea, because that's why she asked the driver to leave the motor running.
You don't have.
Why do you ask somebody to leave the motor running?
Mind reader.
Well, you don't have to be a mind reader to understand that.
He went in there to negotiate, and he didn't negotiate. He was in there for 3 minutes, and Nancy was picking on him. So he says, "I'm not going to get anything accomplished for the American people until you drop those charges against me," because he's so afraid
there are no
he's going to get kicked out of office.
There are no charges against him.
Well, they're working on it.
They're working. Well, they've been working on it for 2 years. There's still no charges.
Okay.
All right. We got somebody here who would like to talk to you. Stand by.
Control of the House. Now the Democrats are.
Stand by. This is a student-run program. One of our students want to talk to you.
So,
okay, sure.
So in regards to that, I think my statement towards that is, how is he supposed to get anything done when during this time of negotiating and relations with the Democratic Party, he was being picked on? So it's like not a matter of what he can do for the country or what he's trying to do for the country anymore. It's all about identity politics and, oh, he said this, she said this. So how is he supposed to go about negotiating some plan of action when Nancy Pelosi comes in and just starts threatening to impeach him and saying all this other banter?
She didn't say anything at the meeting.
Well, no.
He was in there with the head of the Senate and he had his people in there too.
So,
and he wouldn't negotiate because he's a little baby.
Right.
Well, it's a matter of respect.
He's a big baby.
I think that she's a baby too, because if she can't go in there and just have a civilized conversation without making it about her personal, what's the word I'm looking for?
She didn't say that in the meeting.
Right. But it's listen, when you're in politics, what you say before a meeting publicly is just as important as what you say in the meeting. So it all bleeds over and there is no delineation.
So you're glad that he's going to boycott fixing our roads and our bridges?
No one's happy about that. I think he's
responsible for it.
If you want to be a responsible citizen, you should contact your representative and have your representative tell Nancy Pelosi to work with this administration.
She was ready to work with him. He ran out of the room. He wouldn't negotiate. He wouldn't discuss fixing the bridges.
Right.
I seen a bridge 2 years ago on TV, and it was so rusted. Metal was falling on the cars that were going underneath the bridge. Right. You know, people are probably dying from the roads and these crumbling bridges, and he wouldn't negotiate because he's a big sissy.
Well, all right. Thank you for all the name calling, John. We appreciate your call. All right.
Oh, one other thing. Can I mention another thing?
If you want to keep it without the name calling, sure, go ahead.
Name calling, okay.
Yeah.
Well, socialism, is that a dirty thing with you?
Well, I don't know where you're going.
Okay, I'm telling you where it's going. He's going to give billions of dollars to the farmers. Isn't that socialism?
No, it's a negotiating tactic.
Oh, it's a negotiation tactic.
Mm-hmm.
I think he's subsidizing the farmers. That's
well, all right.
That's what the
you're entitled to your opinion.
Do.
Yeah, you're entitled to your opinion. But
what do you think about public schools and Social Security? That's socialism, isn't it?
Yeah. So
do you agree?
Yeah. I mean, part of it is. I mean, but we're still a republic.
We're a republic that you think some socialism is good, right?
Well, some people think that, yes.
You would like to do away with Social Security.
I would like to do away with. I think when we have less government, we're all a lot happier.
So you don't want the public to pay for so if a kid.
Do you know what Social Security? Do you know what Social Security, John? What it was? Why it came into being in the first place? Do you know the real reason?
Take care of the people.
No, it was
when they got old.
No, no. You are mistaken.
Okay, fill me in there,
this is fact-based information. Once again, this Social Security was originally set up to be able to bury a loved one. That was the whole purpose. The amount of money that was given upon one's passing. In fact, that same amount of money that was issued back then is exactly the same amount of money that is issued today when someone passes. And it was the whole purpose originally was to give the opportunity to take care of your loved ones when they pass. But that was...
And them liberals got carried away and they
Correct.
wanted to give it to
right.
People that worked. We paid into our Social Security.
The only problem
You're paying your Social Security, aren't you, Frank?
The only problem with socialism is pretty soon you run out of other people's money. So, but we thank you for your call, John, and we appreciate you always listening. Frank. All right. Thanks, buddy. All right. Take care. All right. So, very interesting.
Thank you for that.
That was good. But yeah. So, anyways, talking about that, there was an interesting article in the town hall, and there was a staying on topic here. The White House Counselor Kellyanne Conway sounded off on House Speaker Nancy Pelosi for ruining Wednesday's infrastructure meeting with President Trump an hour before they were scheduled to meet. Pelosi accused the president of staging a cover-up. Pelosi clearly cannot control her temper about the president, Conway said during a Fox News interview Thursday morning, adding that the speaker kept her car running before even walking into the White House. Conway was also fuming over how she had been treated by the speaker during the very brief 3-minute meeting. Conway asked Pelosi if she had a direct response for him. "I'm responding directly to the president, not staff," Pelosi responded. Really great. That's really a pro-woman of you, Conway reportedly said. Conway reflected on her tense exchange Thursday. "She treats me like I'm her maid," Conway said of Pelosi. "She's not pro-woman, she's pro-some woman." She told the press the same thing. So she went on to say Pelosi cannot control her own caucus. Conway added on Fox News, "For weeks, she's been trying to tamp down talks about impeachment, but to no avail." So that's kind of an interesting kind of inside baseball look, kind of a peek behind the curtain of how the give and take are going. But Frankie is exactly right. It's like schoolyard kids. You really just
back and forth, just picking on each other.
Right. Exactly.
That's what media has turned into.
You really nailed it, I think. So that was
and just even playing into the whole subsidy thing. He started this trade war with China in an attempt to re-sanctify the trade market because they were taking advantage a lot. And he gets backlash because now American farmers, American industries, they're getting the full frontal force of it because we're not getting anything from them anymore. So now he gives out these subsidies, and now he's getting harassed because of this.
Right. Just because he's trying to help out.
When are we gonna create common ground?
Mm-hmm.
So basically, my thinking is and really the timing to negotiate with China is good right now because the Chinese economy is weak. It's been weakening for the past 2 years. Before, actually, just as this administration was, you got to realize that even as this administration started, there was a holdover activities from the previous administration and rules and and all those things. So things didn't change on January 20th. But prior to that, there was a slowdown of the Chinese economy, and it has been continued. They're showing a slower growth than what they really need to support their economy. They got some banking issues. They've got all kinds of things going on, and so this is a good time to hold their feet to the fire. So, and I understand that, and so I think we just have to be tough. Even Chuck Schumer had mentioned when he realized what the president was doing on this negotiating, he asked him to stay tough. I think he did that on Twitter or Facebook or one of those platforms. So that really the Democratic Party, what they say, for the sound bites for the news media is one thing, but really I really believe that they understand in their deepest thoughts that this is a negotiating tactic, and this probably, if we hold tough, could work. So this is our best chance to really get the Chinese government to respect our our trade rights, basically, and the value of the intellectual value. That's the biggest problem with so much of our material has an intellectual component that's getting stolen and misused, and it's really never been properly addressed. And the president is right when he says this is not the previous administration's problem. This goes back decades. And it's just everybody said, well, we'll kind of go along to get along. We want them to be successful because our thinking is if they're successful, ultimately they'll play nice and be, and be a good partner with us. But the problem is reality, it's not working out. So I think somebody had to put the brakes on it. So, but anyways.
The joint ventures that China has with all these other companies that they're stealing from, is it only in regards to U.S. companies, or is it other?
Yes, that's a good question. Yeah, so they do this with U.S. companies and other foreign companies. So if you want to do business in China, you say, okay, I'm a foreign business concern, and I want to make a widget there in China, and the Chinese government says, great, no problem, come on in. But we get to buy. The Chinese government gets to own a percentage of your company. And that is the price for you to come into China. And the problem is they start leveraging that to get you compliance on what they want you to be doing with your product or services that you provide.
So it's not even like just a matter of the president's problem with China and the whole trade thing. It's an international affair.
Yes, it really is. But of course, like all things, the United States really has to take a leadership role. And we really haven't in recent years. So it's good that this particular president has taken a leadership role and saying, look, this is the line in the sand. We will not let you behave like this anymore, and you have to play nice. So because and the president is exactly right when he says, if we all can just play nice, we all make money. And he's looking at it from a strictly business person's perspective. And if it's all true, their stock market, their business opportunities would elevate if they just didn't penalize, foreign companies that want to do business in China. If they didn't penalize them for doing that, we would all be happier, and then we wouldn't be having these issues. But nobody's talking about that.
Yeah. I think we just need to learn, everyone just needs to learn to compromise rather than always get their way.
Right.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think and I think this particular president, and I know a lot of our previous presidents truly believe this too. Open trade is the best trade, where it's like for like, and that would be the fairest way to.
There's no reason it shouldn't be that way.
Right. Government should never pick winners and losers. That's when we all lose when that happens. Yeah. And unfortunately, when you do these tariffs, you're starting to selectively pick winners and losers. But the whole idea is to leverage some squeeze, because that means products that they would buy from us is going to cost them more. And then they have to decide if they really want to buy them or not. So maybe they won't buy them.
And then they can start producing them themselves, depending on the product.
Or they can, or they won't, or people have to learn to do without. And we would do the same thing, right? So if Chinese products cost too much, we'll say, okay, well, that stuff, that thing that comes out of Vietnam, I think it's better quality. Maybe I'll buy that, or Bangladesh or wherever it comes from. So I think that things kind of get realigned because water seeks its own level. And I think that's the same thing with economies too. They'll seek their own level, but you cannot force an economy to behave a certain way. That's when you create trouble. So anyways, that's so much of my pontificating.
Opinions expressed.
Whoa, no more opinions. All right. We're all done with opinions. And we'll be right back, so stick with us. Much more to cover.
Welcome back to WSTU, the Treasure Coast Forum.
All right. So this day in history, gang, in 1785, Benjamin Franklin announced that his invention of the bifocals. So he is the creator of that, and that happened on this date in 1785. In 1788, South Carolina became the 8th state to ratify the U.S. Constitution. And let's see now, what else happened this day in history? In the year 1900, Civil War hero Sergeant William H. Kearney becomes the first African American to receive the Medal of Honor 37 years after the Battle of Fort Wagner. And see now, oh, this is kind of interesting. This is, I don't know if you know the infamous gangsters Bonnie and Clyde. You guys have heard of Bonnie and Clyde?
Bonnie and Clyde.
Okay, Bonnie Parker and Clyde Barrow were killed on this date by Texas Rangers in the year 1934. So, and Heinrich Himmler, the head of the Nazi Gestapo, commits suicide after being captured by the Allied forces on this day in the year 1945. And also coincidentally in the year 1949, the Federal Republic of West Germany was proclaimed. So, I don't know, proclaimed or announced or, but anyways, it was
still interesting.
Yeah. And Adolf Eichmann in the year 1960, he was captured. The Israel announced the capture of Adolf Eichmann in Argentina. I guess a lot of refugee Nazis went to Argentina. I guess that was a popular hangout for them. Interesting. Okay, well, anyways, that was just a little bit of this day in history.
Well, speaking of World War II and all that, go ahead, Cassidy.
Oh, we got a segue. Huh?
Yeah, we got a little segue.
All right.
So, a Holocaust survivor is trying to denounce the plans to build a luxury apartment on a mass gravesite of about 1,000 Jews. So,
who's trying to build this?
Let me see.
So you got a developer that says, "Oh, here's a nice piece of real estate," and it's really sacred ground, right? Because of all those people that died.
Mm-hmm. I would wonder why it's just prime real estate for them.
Well, yeah.
So do we know who's trying to build this?
I do not. I can't. Don't see it anywhere
You can't
in the
pull
article.
it up.
Nope.
Huh? All right. But anyway, so a developer wants to use, go across the street, find another piece of real estate.
There's plenty of land.
Yeah.
Why choose a mass grave?
Right. Yeah. That's probably not good form, I would say.
Shall I play the devil's advocate?
Go for it, Frankie.
So
this is a debate technique.
Oh,
okay, I want our listeners at home to understand that.
I totally agree.
Frankie does not actually want to build.
Why not argue for the other side? So, I mean, if we think about all the people, I'm not going to denounce the fact that the Holocaust was horrible, because it's ridiculous that happened. But if we take into account the amount of people who have died in the history of history,
Frankie,
I'm playing the devil's advocate. You're allowed to argue back. I think it's important to take into mind all the other innocent or valiant people who have died and have been buried, and then their burial site has been renovated to accommodate for
essentially desecrated because people didn't know. Right.
Hey, it happened.
Right.
So, I mean, I think maybe negotiations can be made in regards to it, but I don't think it should be such a big deal.
To give you a little bit more to work with, the remains have already been removed from the site.
Oh yeah,
and were reburied. So technically,
in another location.
Yes, in another location. No, other location.
So, okay. So then, what's the problem?
That's hallowed ground. Yeah, it's hallowed ground.
So I think the fact that we move the bodies it's kind of a form of respect, and I guess it's also disrespect. Respect in the fact that we're trying to, move into the future, move beyond. You know what I mean? Why are you making that face?
It brings into the question, like, after how many years do we kind of like move on and say, okay, it's fine to rebuild here?
I think as long as we acknowledge the fact that these people, like, the sacrifices these people made during World War II, and we acknowledge the fact that they were innocent people, and we acknowledge the fact that what happened to them is horrible.
How are you going to acknowledge that same fact, though, if you're living in luxury apartments above a mass burial grave? Like, I don't know who that appeals to. I bet like how many horror movies have started off that way?
Oh no!
I know. Was this grave? Was it an official grave site, or it just happened to be where
it was a mass
it just
grave?
happened to be a mass grave.
So I think the fact that we actually, now knowing that, I think the fact that we actually moved them and had proper burials kind of is that sign of respect that we like. It's no longer we're just leaving them there in this mass grave. They're like nobodies. Now they're actual people who are buried in a graveyard and have been recognized that, they had to suffer such a terrible fate.
At the same time, though, it brings into the question of how the developers are going about this, if they're trying to kind of hush this story over, because how is that good for business if you're...
My thinking is, what were you thinking?
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's plenty of land out there.
Right.
Just
What country is this happening in?
Belarus.
Well, it's got to be Belarus. Yeah. Really?
Right.
Where's... All right. I know because Poland had some concentration camps too. And some of them are still,
they're still up there. They're not running, but
right. But people see them, as visitors to remember. Yeah. So they do allow, I think that's kind of good to be have instructive so that people can see a little bit of what happened, back in the 1940s.
I wonder where the money collected from that tourism of, like, let's say, visiting Auschwitz and such. I wonder where that money actually goes to. If it's given,
probably just to
if
just
people
the
are
upkeep.
profiting
maintaining the
well,
facility.
maintaining, yes, okay, maybe. Well, probably, yeah, definitely. But.
I'm sure the people that work there, they have to get paid. I don't think there's a. I don't
Much of
believe
a
that.
It might be
I
it
don't
might be a
believe it.
donation only
I
thing.
don't
Like
believe
it might
it.
not even be like
I can't imagine it would be a full
$20
profit.
admission.
Yeah.
It's probably not.
But it's especially if there are wooden structures. It's not easy. You got to constantly rebuild and redo and repair. I'm sure that's an ongoing process.
I wonder if there'll ever be a day like what you were talking about, where we stop repairing it and we stop shedding light onto.
We talk about mass graves. We have a mass grave here in Florida that was created after we had this major hurricane before the dike was put around Lake Okeechobee. It was actually the greatest human disaster on U.S. soil.
Wow.
Took place right here in Florida. So over 3,000 people were killed.
Was it from the overflowing of Lake O?
Right. So what happened?
south?
The hurricane came through, pushed all the water to one end of the lake, and as the hurricane passed, all the water came back, and it sloshed over, and thousands of people died. There were so many died by the time they could get there. All they could do is create a mass grave. But to this day, nobody really knows where it is.
Wow.
How long ago was that? That was like only in.
That was
was
in
like the first
That was in the
20 years of-
1920s, I think. Yeah, I'm gonna say like 26 and through there. Wait, I'd have to look it up, but yeah. So, yeah,
Keeping up with natural disasters, what's going on in Missouri, the tornadoes,
right.
crazy.
And you said that when you came in earlier, it was 3 people had
So far,
perished
3
in
confirmed deaths.
right, and that's through Oklahoma.
No, Missouri.
Missouri?
Yeah.
Okay. But I know so they've been getting some severe weather rolling through there. It was Jefferson City, right?
I believe so.
Yeah. I want to say it's Jefferson City, which is very unusual because normally, there's just, the city is only one part of the landscape, and the tornadoes generally, they'll tear up, fields and barns and farms and things of that sort. And mobile homes. I guess if you want to protect a city, mobile homes seem to be the target for tornadoes. So I would, on the periphery of every major town, they should have mobile homes. Nobody living in them, but just mobile homes so that the storms can go there. So I think that's the solution.
Yeah, I agree.
So, anyways, so I was just a little goofy. All right. Anyways, we goofed all our way to our last break, so stick with us. We'll have much more to cover when we return.
Welcome back to WSTU, the Treasure Coast Forum.
All right.
Next time, Frankie.
All righty.
Frankie, why don't you just close us out next time? That's your job.
All right. Sounds fair.
Yeah, sounds fair.
Yeah. Yeah, the tradition is that one of the other panelists brings us back from break. So that's been the tradition for many years here on Treasure Coast Forum. So
I apologize.
All right. So one of the panelists, maybe next week.
Maybe next week. Maybe we can get it.
Hope springs eternal. Okay. So what's next on the hit parade, gang?
Okay. So just we were talking about it, but I kind of had it a little bit wrong. So as of last week, a study was finally released in regards to male birth control. Basically how it works is the men who participate in this, they rub this gel-like substance on their arms and their shoulders, and it works with progestin to lower testosterone levels, which in return lowers the amount of sperm count. Mm-hmm. So this happened over a 28-day period.
Oh, so the trials have already taken place.
Yeah, so what happened was it was a 28-day period of trials, and then just last week they released what happened with it, and this is happening in Los Angeles. And the results were that it did work. However, the other side effects included acne, headaches, tiredness, and weight gain, and some
puffy feeling.
Yeah.
Bloated.
Yeah. So, what do you guys think about this?
Do you think that they'll stop producing it just because of those side effects?
What do you mean stop producing it?
Well, not stop putting effort into it or try to change. No, they're gonna just keep going forward without like editing.
Yeah. So is this like a one-time application,
no,
or
so
is it like you got to do it every day?
It works just like the female birth control. You have to take it every day over a period of time, and then it gradually decreases sperm count.
Do you ever have to stop taking it? Like
when you want to not decrease? Yeah.
Wow.
Well, you said it gradually does. So
yeah, like to the point where like it's kind of like a positive feedback loop. So you introduce this to your body, sees it, it's like, okay, I don't need to do it anymore. So you introduce it, and then it stops producing it, and then more comes in and stops producing it. But then once it doesn't have that chemical anymore, it's like, okay, I guess
all right,
we're fine. So yeah, what do you guys think about this evolution of science?
I think it's a pretty cool idea, and I'm surprised that we haven't come up with it earlier. But now that it's here and will start to be introduced into the general public in the coming years,
right?
I really wonder if it will be popular or if it's just going to be put upon the female to take the birth control.
Yeah, I think one of the side effects that you didn't touch on is excessive shopping. Could happen. Yes,
women deal with that every single day. So.
Yeah, I forgot.
Yeah.
But I mean, I think it's definitely a step in the right direction. Not like, I know you like the whole thing with like what you said, if it's just gonna fall into the girl. But out of the people who did do it, all the men, they said that they had like positive reviews about it. They said
even though the side effects.
Yeah, they said it's definitely a step in the right direction, and like they'd be willing to if it was like if it didn't have. I mean, because female birth, I'm not very versed in female birth control, but like there are side effects with it.
Oh, there definitely still are side effects. Yes.
I think the whole like tiredness and those like temporary things kind of shouldn't nullify the fact that we're actually, making breakthroughs in the male side of it. It's not, we're not looking just to leave it all to the females.
I feel like the fact that it's a gel that you're applying to your shoulders daily is a little bit weird. I feel like it would be more effective if it was just like a pill.
Yeah.
Instead of that. That feels like that's a bigger commitment, because it's like you can't really shower right after you put gel on. You can't put a shirt on. You just have to kind of let it absorb every day.
Yeah, I don't know.
Sounds like a process, right? Yeah.
Poor men. Poor men.
Yeah, right.
What was me?
What was me? Well, that was an interesting, development, I guess, in our social construct, because it does change things. I mean, it sure changes the conversation in a committed relationship, right? It does change the conversation.
I wonder if it'll decrease the amount of women using birth controls, or if they're just gonna people in relationships, if they're just going to rely on one individual or both of them being.
I hope they don't, to be honest, because I think it's better that, especially now going, like, not getting on a tangent on the abortion debate.
It's okay.
I think it's better that men and women are both taking it simultaneously, along with even, the use of like other contraceptives like condoms and stuff. If you really don't need to have a baby, then I think that it's definitely, it should work hand in hand.
I feel like it's a lot of trust to expect your partner to practice birth control when you might be the one who's potentially becoming pregnant. So there's a lot of trust that goes into making sure that your partner remembers to put on a gel every day so that you don't get pregnant if you're trying to avoid that.
Right. Wow.
I just think that with our upcoming generations, we should, instead of focusing on the fight between abortion and such, we should focus more on sexual education.
Wow, 100% agree.
Yeah.
Oh my God. 100%.
Well, now, don't you take, there's some ed classes in school, right? Yes and no.
Isn't Florida an abstinence only state? So
we have not seen anything.
Wow.
No.
So it's just mom and dad and your friends,
if
right?
that, yeah.
Yeah. Interesting.
Yeah. What we get is we get told how to make babies. We just don't get told how to prevent that from happening.
The only resource we really have is the internet, and the internet contains dangerous things.
Yes.
And some of the things are too biased or they're not actually true and we're given false information. So I think if we actually mandated sexual education, then
it used to be part of the school curriculum when I was in school, and of course it was kind of embarrassing, but we would go to class and it's like, well, I didn't know that. That's pretty cool, so it was helpful. And then then you talk to mom and dad at home and they help you out with your understanding of what's going on. So but that's and really it should come from home,
Yeah,
it's a very personal thing.
It is.
But also the fact that when you were younger, obviously you had this information presented to you in school, and nowadays
at least it got the conversation started.
Yeah.
Right.
And now we don't have that anymore. And I think just in regards to all topics, not even just pregnancy prevention, just politics in general. I'm not going too much on a tangent, but the fact that people aren't educated about the simplest things, I think one of the, YouTube videos and stuff like that, it shows only 70% of American people know the 3 branches of government.
Wow.
Yeah, it's something ridiculous like that.
That's just depressing.
So if we have 70% not knowing those 3 simple things, how do we expect them to make such important decisions in regards to abortion, in regards to pregnancy prevention, in regards to economy, in regards to anything? So I think it all falls back to education.
We need a common sense class.
Common sense.
Yeah.
So we got 2 minutes.
So in unrelated news, a
good segue. I like that.
Nice
okay,
segue.
Well done.
In Massachusetts, a man's house was broken into, but instead of the perpetrator stealing or just wreaking havoc on the house, he cleaned the home.
So they don't know who the perpetrator was.
They do not know.
It could have been a she.
It could have been a she.
Yeah.
It could have been multiple she's. It could have been multiple he's. We don't know.
Right? We don't know.
But many are believing that it was actually a house cleaning service, but I don't really believe so since the back door was left open.
Yeah. It was actually left wide open in a jar or just unlocked?
Wide open.
Yeah, wide open.
The child noticed that.
Okay. Why is that door open? Yeah. Right.
But they left a nice folded origami flower. Very nice.
So
a lot of effort.
Housekeeping services. So somebody who pays attention to that. That's funny. That is rich. I love it. Very cool. All right. So keep your house clean so when people break in, they don't have to clean it for you. Yep. Is that the motto?
That's the motto that we're giving you for the week.
Okay. All right. All righty.
Come on, Frankie, take it away.
What do I say?
Thank you for tuning in.
There you go.
This was WSTU, the 1450
Treasure Coast Forum. All righty. Well done, Frank. All right.
Way to go.
Okay. We'll see you here next week on the Treasure Coast Forum.